Thanks for joining today's webinar. Today we will talk about the Ignice methodology and 3 keys to stay ahead in business. Today's approach can be applied to help you understand what your customers are likely to acquire during the upcoming 18 months period and what steps you need to master to be in that position. The first key is to track the relevant indicators for your market, to be in a position to understand the drivers that impact your business. Today we will talk about the methods, and in the upcoming webinar we will turn these methods into practice by applying it on the mining equipment market. But let's start with the methodology so everyone is clear with the concept and how you can use this concept in your decision intelligence process, how you can use it to impact your financial performance, and how you can use it to evaluate yourself against your peers. So the first key is the ability to track the relevant indicators. The second key is to use this data to generate predictions around how your business is likely to develop so that you can take the right decisions to boost sales and profits. Once you have the insights, once you have the outlook, now it's time to implement the relevant decisions to improve your performance. So those are the 3 keys that we will talk about today, and let you understand, pull off a couple of layers on that onion to understand how you can apply this recipe on your own. So the first one, track the relevant indicators, what is happening in the market. The second one is to understand what might happen, and the third one is to make sure that you act to make it happen. So when it comes to tracking these indicators, our recommendation is to widen the perspectives, not only relying on the information that you are creating internally through your teams, but also leveraging externally available information and let that support your modeling. So some examples of indicators are listed here on the slide, but the key is to use your domain expertise. Think creatively about what indicators you believe impact your business the most, and then let's start to track that data to allow you to be more data-driven and also use that information when we go to the next step, which is the predictions. So here are 3 examples of indicators that we often look at. So first, the macroeconomical environment, and zooming in on those indicators that are relevant for a global manufacturer, a construction company, or a mining equipment manufacturer. So for example, that could be the business sentiment. It could be the isolating a part of the GDP, like the mining GDP or the steel production or the construction market. So that's a relevant input parameter. We also often follow the financial performance of relevant companies within a specific industry vertical so that we can see how they act during the business cycles, when they are focusing more on capital equipment, when they are focusing more on the aftermarket business, basically the balance between CapEx and OpEx. And then the third category here that is relevant for most organizations is the commodity price development. For many manufacturers, this is affecting their COGS. But if you're in the mining equipment space that we will use as an example in the next webinar, this is driving demand. So understanding your exposure and how your unique index is developing over time can be an important lead indicator. So this is examples of external indicators. Then we marry these external indicators with your internal data so that we form a time series of how you have performed under different market environments. And how can we learn from this when we generate predictions that are forward oriented? And that could be one lead indicator could be the development of your sales pipeline, how your win rates are changing over time, how can we unlock the full potential of your commercial teams. Another internal indicator definitely is your financial performance. How have your sales and order intake varied under different market conditions? We would also recommend to take control over your installed base, understand your installed base. Some organizations have very solid data here, others are in the process of extending that as we speak. But with an understanding of your installed base, the utilization of your installed base, you can have a proactive dialogue with your customers, and you can make sure that you are well positioned when it's time for an upgrade or a replacement. So track allows us to understand what is happening, and it's a prerequisite for moving on to start to model and predict the likely development of your market, and also to drastically improve the efficiency and effectiveness when you're doing your financial planning. So instead of involving your entire organization of controllers and local business owners, you can automate this heavily, and you can let your organization focus more on the strategic part of developing your business rather than collecting data and structuring information. So when we do the predictions, we're relying on different machine learning libraries. It could be random forest, it could be gradient boosted trees, different methods. But we need a time series of your historical performance, and we need a time series of the indicators that we want to test. And then we prepare the information to support the training process. Once we have done the training, we have verified the performance of the model, and we have generated the likely outcome. We tend to look at this from an 18 months period, 18 months perspective. We can also shorten the prediction outlook and be more granular and more tactical, or we can extend it and work with parallel scenarios to support your planning. So when you have the insights, it's time to act, because that's when we can take operational use of these insights, put priorities on the right initiatives, take more bold decisions, implement these improvements to capture either growth opportunities or be in a position to secure that we are cost effective under a tougher market environment. And since this is not a one-time exercise, this is something that you should do consistently, gathering the information, utilizing the information, update your predictions. You can also course correct and do initial improvements as you go forward. So that's the second recommendation we would like to make here today is don't do decision intelligence as a one-time strategic exercise. Make sure that you turn these three keys into an operational flywheel where you constantly track your market externally and internal indicators. You utilize the information to generate predictions, and you act on the insights. This is best done by combining the competence of your people, your organization, and by leveraging technology that can automate many of these steps. One way of doing it is to leverage technology like our decision intelligence platform, where you have the ability to easily collect that internal and external data, use it for your predictions with the minimum requirements of writing R or Python code, and then making sure that it doesn't stop there. We don't want you to get stuck in the lab environment. We want you to be in a position to collaborate cross-functionally and have this information easily accessed at the front lines within your product organization to secure that they run the relevant strategic projects. You could also use the ACT framework for an OKR methodology, objective key results, where you define the objectives, the expected outcomes, and you track that as you implement your strategic programs. So today we have focused on the methodology and approach. In the upcoming webinar, we will turn this methodology into practice by applying the track, predict, and act concept on the mining equipment market, so that you can understand what do you mean when you talk about these indicators, how can you use the indicators into predictions, and how do we close the loop by defining relevant strategic themes. So take the opportunity and sign up to the next webinar. If you're in the mining equipment space, there will be a lot of very concrete recommendations. There will also be the results of the research that we have done when it comes to commodity price development with the value-weighted approach, also with the 2 examples on how it could look for a more underground-oriented company versus a more surface-oriented company. And we will also look at the mining GDP development over time, weighted across all major mining countries. And we have mapped the top 100 mining companies when it comes to their revenue and EBIT development, so that we can index that over time as well. So if you sign up to the webinar, you will get the highlights from this report. We will also share a free copy of this report with you. And the first 3 that signs up will be offered a half-day workshop where we will take your data, your exposure, and blend that with the result from this research to give you a unique, specific report based on your market situation and exposure and customer weighting. So I hope this was helpful, and we look forward to continue the dialogue in different forums, and hope to see you joining the next webinar of ours. You have a great day. Enjoy.